Streamline Books. Let's give them a hand.
Thank you, Sydney, and good morning to everyone. Anita, that was awesome. Thank you for that presentation. And I am Alex from Columbia.
Will Severance from Kansas City.
And we're excited to be here today. And just before we get started, I want to take a quick poll. Raise your hand if you have ever thought about before in your life, if you ever had the thought, man, I would like to write a book someday. Raise your hand. Raise your hand. Keep them high. Keep them high.
I'll raise for my husband.
Okay, you raised it. Or yeah, maybe you have a spouse. You've thought, maybe I want to write a book someday. Okay, probably about maybe 5, 10 of us in here. Okay, we got some hands back there. All right, now, for those of you that were raising your hand, raise your hand if we went on Amazon right now and we could go on and actually buy your book that you wrote. Raise your hand. We got one.
Your husband's.
Your husband's, is that right? Your husband's an author?
That's
cool.
Awesome.
Okay, so we got one. So, what's that?
I know a guy.
You know a guy. You know a guy. Her husband, is that who you know? So that's awesome. But I would say that little poll right there is kind of a true statistic. So 81% of people in America want to write a book someday, but only 1% of people actually write a book each year. And so for us, we feel like there's a gap there. And so our company, Streamline Books, we help people write, edit, and publish their book in a 16-week process. And so all kinds of people, whether it's former military, it's teachers, it's business owners, it's entrepreneurs, we help people write their book and use it as a content piece, a legacy piece that pushes them forward in their business and their life. And so when it comes to publishing, there's a few things. Will and I are actually both authors ourselves, and what we found in kind of the traditional book publishing space, it's a very crowded space, but the first thing we've noticed, number one, is it's too exclusive. So most of us in this room, we wouldn't get the opportunity for Penguin Random House or some of these big conglomerates to call us to write a book because they'd want to see an email subscriber list of 500,000. They'd want to see hundreds of thousands of social media followers. They're selling units. That's what they care about. They don't really care about your story. They want to move units. And so if they're going to do your book, they need to know that you can get it out to the masses, right? Number two, too long. A traditional book publishing deal, if you say, hey, I want to write a book, and you get a traditional book publishing deal, you're looking at 1 to 2 years. And we're both keynote speakers. And so for us, if I had to wait 2 years every single time that I had to go then be able to speak on a book that I write, I'm on to the next one by then. Like I could have published a book, made money from speaking engagements, and monetized that rather than waiting 2 years. Number three, it's too muddied. There's just too many cooks in the kitchen. There's too much red tape. There's just so many different things that you have to wait on someone in New York to validate your idea, and we just think that's a bummer. Like if you have a story to share with the world, expertise that you want to get out there, we feel like you should be able to do that. And the last thing is it's too vain. All the notion of become a bestseller, become on this bestsellers list, all these things that, yeah, they're cool. But we just think there's more meaningful reasons to share your story with the world, whether that's expanding your business or even just making an impact on someone's life. And so those are a few things that we've seen and why we've started Streamline. And here,
my bad. We're back.
We're back in action.
So Alex and I were laughing this morning saying when we first did our first 1 Million Cups presentation in Columbia last December, this slide said 2 dudes, 1 offering. And so if that tells you we've had just...
We're expanding.
Yes. Who knows what it'll be next year.
Yeah.
But we at least thought now it's appropriate to say 1 team because we have built this team that is coming alongside authors. The 2 offerings is what I'll speak to on this slide. So the easiest way to think of our process is beginning, middle, and end. So beginning is the writing, editing process to get you to your full finished manuscript. And so this also kind of speaks to our name of Streamline Books. So Streamline in 2 ways. The first way is the 16-week process. A lot of people hear that, they think, oh, that seems pretty fast. Well, it's a third of the year. And with a team around you, similar, it's like you sign up for that 5K or half marathon, you invest, the end date. Hopefully, what are you going to do the next day? You start training, because you have an end goal of what you're working towards. The second part of Streamline, we have all trudged through that 300-400 page book, gotten to the end and thought probably could have been 30 or 40 pages. So book length is also part of our process, where we're helping authors write shorter, punchier, more digestible content. And we could break down word count, page count, maybe in the Q&A. But that's Streamline. So that's the first part of our process, is writing and editing. The middle portion, which is actually printing and publishing. So we largely utilize print-on-demand technology, which has just come a long way in the last 5 to 10 years. Another thing we could speak more to in Q&A. And then the third part, in speaking, are Streamline books, talent. So it's kind of the second part of our name to say helping others get their voice and message into the world after. So that leads to our second offering, other than the book, which is our Streamline Strategic Communications package. So that's an author who is saying, hey guys, I need additional help with email marketing, social media, starting a podcast, creating a website, is where our Streamline Strategic Communications package comes in.
And here are just a few authors that we've published, and we're currently in the process of publishing. I guess a quick little case study, top left here, Bo Payne. Incredible story. He was a Major League Baseball draft pick. He went to prison, in and out of prison for 10 years, homeless. Unbelievable story. He's now come on the other side of that and sharing his story, and it's kind of become popular on social media. We were able to help him secure a $15,000 speaking engagement in Michigan before his book's even published. He's never even got paid to speak. We were able to kind of work that, help him do that. And so it's like, for someone like him, never even had a paid speaking gig before. Now he's able to go to these clients and say, hey, I have this piece of content that can help people that are in recovery or addiction. Like, I've been there, and I can help people do that. And so there's former pro athletes on this list. There's business owners, keynote speakers. This is just like such a fraction of the people we get to work with. But it's just so cool. At the end of the day, we get to help people move their stories forward. Whether we had a financial planner recently, he wanted to release his book to be able to speak to kids on financial literacy. His book was featured on Fox Business. Florida, they're doing a ton of great stuff with getting literacy out there for finances. A school district just bought 25,000 copies of his book for all their students. So this is just a snapshot, but we love sharing people's stories.
Yeah, so this is Colin Holba. He was an NFL long snapper for about 4 or 5 years, since retired. He's a mutual friend of Alex's. Colin was author one for Streamline. When Alex and I came together kind of early 2021, it was like, hey, let's run this play with an author. I had my own content marketing business in Kansas City, and kind of this offering, Alex and I just teamed up on it. We said, let's do it with an author. So Colin was author one. Here's this quote on someone who didn't have an idea of who or what he was speaking to in his book. But then with Streamline, with a team around him, we were able to make it possible. But it's that last line that is most meaningful to us, which is the team that came around Colin and Alex and I are friendships for the rest of our lives. And so that's where we feel like so much of the back end of this process is the most fulfilling, are the relationships that get to come as a result.
Yeah, so I just want to throw out a challenge to all of us today. So you've probably Googled yourself before. Like, you've put into Google, your name, and you're like, oh, that's what pops up, right? But what we want to challenge you to do today, before you go to bed tonight, go to Amazon, and we want you to Amazon yourself. And if there's nothing that comes up, we want to challenge you. If you're a thought leader in your space, a business owner, of whatever you do, there's a lot of industries represented. We want to challenge you. Like, to us, there should be something that comes up under your name or even your expertise. Maybe it's a underwater basket weaver. I don't know, whatever you do. Like, when you type that in, what comes up? And so we just want to help you reframe this. Like, and crafts. Anita, yes. So it's like, how cool is it that, when someone types in your name, that could come up? And so that's what we want to help people do, is not only just become thought leaders, but just help frame them as credibilities, as people who can just make a bigger impact in what they do.
Yeah, so looking ahead, just some different goals in terms of our vision, even differentiators of our business. And over the last year, we've done a lot of kind of industry specific, who are the other players in the game? And we could name some of those companies. But again, some of these elements we think sets us apart in terms of our why. So in the top left, frontline books. Over the last couple of years, we've all become familiar with this vernacular frontline, right? Frontline workers. So largely we associate that with nurses, healthcare. But for Alex and I, we thought, man, that's also military, veterans who want to get their story told. That's ministry, those who are on the grind. That is educators. This conversation of teachers should be paid more. Absolutely, we think so too. So what if we can set them up on kind of this side gig that they can push their message and story and expertise? Finish line books that we kind of have for maybe that older audience, 65, 70 plus, who they're just in a different phase of life, but guess what? They still have an awesome area of expertise to share for themselves. The author, Arthur Brooks, wrote a great book called From Strength to Strength, where he talks about crystallized intelligence in your older age and how to utilize crystallized intelligence to still make an impact into your latter years. So we think about finish line books, starting line, which you might guess we're getting ready to roll out children's books as well. For a lot of people, they have this interest of writing a children's book, so we have that service. Kind of research development right now, we're not so gung-ho on it, but again, it's looking ahead. Nominate an author, empower an author. So in Q3 of 2023, we plan on doing this offering for the first time, which is taking nominations throughout the course of the year. And quarterly, our team is going to vote on one of those nominated authors and write their book for free. And so that's someone who maybe doesn't have the means to pay for our service or utilize our service. We still want to tell stories of those who, or story needs to be told. Writers' workshops, so this is kind of dreaming big for us. It's coming alongside maybe bigger name authors and helping them run writers' workshops in their own community. And so yeah, I mean, we have a ton of ideas and we're dreaming, but those are just a few of how we scale, which is that question, how do you plan on scaling the business? So Alex and I are always thinking through how do we scale, but also retain that relational element that we care so much about. When you talk about numbers, how do you grow the business? Scaling your authors. I mean, like the 8 authors on that screen is what we care about. And we don't care about doing hundreds of authors' books if it means not stewarding well the people who we've been called to come alongside. So, yeah.
Yeah, so here's our contact info. I guess the first thing I wanted to actually do a little quick giveaway before we take questions. Who loves the restaurant that we're going to be eating lunch at today called... whoever raises their hand first, is it Lamy's? Who? Right here. Let's give it up.
Yeah.
Here's the free book. Here's the free book.
Do you have a recommendation?
As to eat their fried chicken sandwich, it's wonderful.
Fried chicken.
Good to
And
know.
they just changed their menu, I think, recently, so I'm not sure it's still on
Okay.
there. But
We'll have to ask him about that. But anyway, I hope you enjoy the book. But just right there, like that's my book that I wrote. And so next time she's looking for a speaker and she hopefully enjoys the book, there you go. Now she knows who to call. And so that, like, the power of that is what we want to help people do. And we've been doing all over the country. And so for any of you in here, if you're like, if you're like, I want to write a book someday, or if you're like, my spouse or someone that I know, here's our emails. We would love to connect with them. If anyone in this room, this is a 1 Million Cups special. If any of you guys refer us someone that we end up writing their book, we will give you a $250 Amazon card and a $250 donation to a charity of your choice. So $500. There you go. We got it. Yep. Well, you got my book and my email. There you go. We'll get you. Here's our emails right here. So will@writemybooks.com, alex@writemybooks.com. If there's anyone that comes to mind, I would say, we're excited to.
Yeah, I would also say we're kind of serving 2 people here, right? Prospective authors, but then also when I say we're building this team of prospective writers, editors, whether that's you or someone who has that skill set or bent. We are actively talking to people who might be writing, editing on the side because it's hard to make money writing. And so we also see that as kind of more of an internal population that we hope to serve in building out that team as well. So yeah, if you know anyone on that end. Yeah.
What is your cost? Like, what do you charge people? Are there specific packages?
Yep, so we have 3 options that we'll send every client, and this is our 2023 pricing. And we know in the future, we're gonna definitely be able to raise these fees compared to what we've seen in other offerings. But number 1, which is everything's in the 16-week process. Option number 1 would be, let's say we're writing your book. In that 16 weeks, you're doing the writing. Our team's developmentally editing, coaching, restructuring, trailing you in the document. It's about $13,000. Option number 2, if we're writing your book, it's us doing a full ghostwrite. So based on 6 interviews, we're ghostwriting your book. We're looking at your old social media posts. We're getting your voice. So at the end of the day, it's like, wow, this is my book, $18,000. And then option 3 is about $31,000, which is one of those options plus yearly marketing, which is social media, podcast, website, all these things that we talked about earlier in one. So that's kind of, yep.
do you have a publishing package? For example, say, I already wrote the book.
Yep.
I have an illustrator that has been illustrating the book, and that's
Are you talking about a kid's book or a regular?
I do have a children's book that
Okay.
we have. I've written it, and all of the drawings are finished, and she's finishing painting them.
Yep.
So
Yeah, to Will's point earlier on the kids' books, we just have been so head down with our regular books. We haven't, but we do have a custom printer that maybe we could connect you with on that. That would be good. Essentially, everyone that's been, hey, I have this, because what happens is people come to us, they're like, hey, I have this finished book.
right.
Well, we get the book and it's like, okay, this needs to be pretty heavily edited. So that falls into our option 1, which is at $13,000.
So you don't have any cheaper packages?
But we haven't done kids' books yet though. So for us, with the revenue we've already been able to do in 1 year, which is for us mind-boggling, and we're just trying to keep above water and get all our writers paid and everyone else like that. We haven't got into kids' books. I think for 2023, that's a goal.
Yeah. When it's looking ahead, like we're close. We have a custom printer friend who's awesome, who we're looking to partner with, so that it absolutely wouldn't be that 13K. I mean, when you think about the numbers Alex just threw out, is a good amount of nonfiction that we've been writing, some fiction as well.
Yep.
But children's books, and through our partnership with this publisher, yeah, it'll be cheaper than that. It's just an element of how many books, do you want to purchase of that custom printed book?
And just to say too, and we've done a ton of market research, we are very cheaply priced. I know that's kind of weird to think, but if you think about, let's say there's a CEO of a company who wants to write a book on his expertise, or a salesperson. If they come out with a book and they invest $20,000 in this book, $18,000, and it leads to maybe a few high ticket sales for them, or even I gave you the example earlier, Bo, he gets one speaking gig worth 15 grand. It's like, you've recouped that cost instantly. So we know that our client isn't everybody. And so we're not selective in the sense of we're turning people away, but it's more of we know there's a certain person maybe that obviously can afford this, or maybe we've even had people who get state grants or do things like that. So yeah.
Do you see Amazon KDP as competition? Or
Yeah, so that's one thing we didn't explain in the publishing part is all of our books, which is print on demand, we've been doing through Amazon, which 70% of books today are bought on Amazon. So for us, it's why use some other mode rather than going away from Amazon? So
you utilize Amazon KDP?
absolutely.
Correct. And that's largely the middle portion of our process. So this kind of gets to, it's I had a friend one time, as we were starting this, he said, what does it cost to publish a book? And I said, well, that'd be kind of like asking, what does it cost to photograph a wedding? Do you have a nice aunt? And does she have a camera lying around? Because theoretically, photographing a wedding could be free. But that's not how it works. You have the bride who's been following her favorite photographers for years, and when she finally gets engaged, she's going, okay, finally I get to reach out. And that's not free, right? So we recognize what in and through the payment that even Alex mentioned, what people are mostly paying us for is the beginning and end portion of our process. That middle piece, Amazon KDP, what have you, if you have a few hours on a Saturday, you could go on YouTube and figure out how to do it.
Right.
There's a phrase by one of my favorite authors at the end of his book. He said, future authors, he goes, don't seek to get published, seek to get edited. And we really kind of lead with that in and through our business model because that's what people need to write a good book that they're proud of, to give, to sell.
Yeah, and we view ourselves as a turnkey business because it is turnkey but really, like Will said, at the end of that writing process, if someone's like, hey, I want to take this book and manuscript and take it that's great. But for most people, they're going, how do I publish this thing? Amazon KDP with print on demand is awesome. For when I do speaking engagements and the client wants 100 books and wants me to speak, it's just so easy for me to go on my Amazon account, ship the books to Sedalia, the books are there, it works great.
Do you see yourself creating a different model so that you can do maybe in a 6-week program or an 8-week program where it's okay, well, your book really needs to be edited and this is what we can do for you to assist you in getting on Amazon KDP?
Yeah, we've talked about, and maybe this doesn't answer your question specifically, we've talked about okay, dreaming big, can we go from a 16-week process to a 12-week? And what we keep going back to is most 99% of people we talk to are man, I've had a book idea for years. I've been dreaming about this book for 5 years, but I've been afraid to tell someone, and we're going, hey, don't let it go 6 years. And so for us, it's while 16 weeks sounds fast, we don't want to rush it to the point where it's they've already waited 5 years. What's, you know,
16 more weeks.
what's 16 more weeks? So I don't know if that answers your question. I think we've got a little, early, when we were starting our business a year ago, and we'd have kind of one-off situations of like, hey, could you do, like, we were saying yes to everything because it's like, we want to get the reps to be able to show, hey, we've done 30 books.
Right.
We've turned some things down lately where like a year ago we would have been like, yes, where we're just like, hey, we don't have the bandwidth, we're growing this team, we're excited, but we want to stay within. So I don't know if that's a good answer for.
Stay in your lane. It makes sense.
Yeah.
I understand
Yeah.
what you're saying. Great
Yes.
business. I think it's awesome that what you guys are doing. It's just I have a lot of questions because I'm like I've never seen anything like this before.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks.
So something that I was kind of thinking, you know, just meeting you guys today and talking to you just before this started, your line of business that you are in, it makes total sense meeting both of you just because just in the 5 minutes I was talking to you, you were asking me about me, where I'm from, what I like, what I am interested in. So for you guys to have all these stories of people's lives that you are writing and helping get out, it is so awesome.
That's cool.
And so you're talking about like how you guys are set apart from other businesses like this. How many people do you have on your team? I mean, are people working with you guys directly, or how?
Yeah, that's a good question. Right now, everyone's 1099, so really it's project. So, do you want to explain the 3-prong system?
Yeah, for sure. So, oh man, the last year started out. You know, we booked our first few authors at the end of 2021. It's like, dude, we're doing it, you know? And I'm like, let's go. Alex is like, Will, I'm quitting my full-time job. I was like, what? So Alex did quit his job at Veterans United in Columbia to pursue his own full-time speaking, which he had been growing the last few years. It was awesome, but it was just this cool moment for both of us, like buy-in, you know, and like we're doing it. And then just, you know, for us, like we've just seen over the last year, just the people that God has put in our path. Like we recognize that first and foremost, that like we're just trying to steward what we've been given in that way. It was early spring where it was like, where it was Alex and I, 2 dudes, 1 offering.
I was kind of doing the sales, and Will was ghostwriting like 8 books at once. You know?
I've been at the library a lot over the last year. Head down in my laptop, ton of writing, ton of editing. And I think I've been, you know, good enough, you know, to get our authors over the finish line. But back to what I said earlier, I'm so excited to bring in other awesome writers, editors who are better at it than I am. So the spring, it was like, need a little help here. But quickly we realized actually it's not writers and editors first, it's actually project management. So we first decided to focus on the project management side of our business, because we said if we just bring in a bunch of writers and editors in, but they don't know where they fit in the process, like what good is it for? So we brought on our first 2 PMs early summer. We dove into, it's called Basecamp, is our project management software that we utilize. And what our PMs have done through that thing is just like wizardry. It's amazing. And so we know that is a word we haven't talked much about. Accountability is so strong in through this process. So now we have the project management set up. Well, for each author that signs on with us, they get assigned 3 people. So they get assigned a project manager, a writer, and a copy editor. So for that option 1, that writing role is more of like a developmental editor. So that's a high level, you're trailing the author as they write. And then for option 2, that writer is the ghostwriter. So then you're conducting the interviews and so forth. So that's kind of the team we're building. Essentially what we're doing now is building up a roster of writers and editors to meet the demand. But we also know we're not quite there yet. We're probably in the next 3 to 6 months are in this process of Alex and I going from working in the business to working on the business. We're kind of phasing ourselves out of more of the production so that we can grow the business. And again, replacing ourselves with people who are better at it and have the bandwidth. But it's crazy. I mean, like we've been on multiple calls over the last year, Alex and I, with, I say full-grown adults. I guess we're adults. Yeah. Sometimes it feel like it. I mean, we're up here wearing shorts.
Yeah.
Trying to stay young, I guess. But
we got called a student earlier today.
Yeah.
So.
You know, men and women in their 40s and 50s. A professional therapist last week, and she was just crying last week on our kickoff call to us. Not about us or the process, but
she was so excited.
No, just about her life and how cathartic it is to, for once in your life, get your story down on paper and blend it with your expertise and stuff. And it's just like, oh man, like we have these moments where we're like, like you feel
Yeah.
like we're counselors or something.
Yeah.
So it is kind of crazy, but we're really confident in the people we're talking to build up our team. So.
And then employee-wise, one 1099 sales rep. He lives in Texas. So how we do sales is just over Zoom calls. So people will reach out to us, see us doing speaking engagements, say, hey, we get on a Zoom call. So he's been doing really well on LinkedIn, just reaching out to people that he sees. They have a website, they have a speaking website, they're doing stuff, but it's like they don't have a book. It's like, hey, you ever thought about writing a book? They're like, yeah. And then it's like, boom, we're all getting on a call with them. So it's crazy. What's about the social media conversation of earlier, one conversation we had, and the last thing I'll say early on is like, man, if we can build this thing without ever doing a social media post, we know we're on to something. And like just now we have brought on some interns from Mizzou who are creating a TikTok account, creating all these social media for us. But it's been really cool how just the business has been blessed in a year of never doing a social media post, but truly just word of mouth, has exceeded all of our expectations. So now what's exciting is like when we start eventually buying ads online or doing these things, we're just excited where it can grow. So yeah, if there's any other questions or thoughts, would love to hear other mine. Yeah.
Well, I just know, the people that we have in this room, we've got a handful of entrepreneurs who, just talking with them every month whenever they come, I'm like, I know you got more of them.
Yeah.
So I
Right.
can, that would be so cool to see.
Yeah.
Like you said, their life in a book would be
Yeah.
awesome. So I think that you guys can speak to a lot of people. So
That's cool.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any other questions?
What about any negatives or anything? Like seriously, we came all the way here this morning and want to hear it all, the good, bad, and the ugly.
Honestly, your price point scares me.
Yep.
That was my biggest thing. Is like, man, 13 grand is a lot of money to
Yep.
like most people to spend on a book.
Absolutely.
And so that's why I was going, do you have any in the workings of, hey, this is what we charge just to edit your book? Like,
Yeah.
we're happy to work with you, but we're just going to edit it since you have a finished piece.
Yeah.
And this is how many edits we will do for you for this price. And so that you can maybe market to other people. But you might not want to do that because
Yeah.
that might not be what you want to do as far as scaling down to allow a different price point for multiple individuals and multiple stages of their books.
Yeah. No, that's
So-
good. We've definitely taken those on throughout the last year. I just think back to the turnkey thing, it's like, well, then what does that person do we've edited their manuscript, what do they do?
Right.
Most people don't know. And so for them, it's like, hey, I'm paying for you to upload it to Amazon, put in all the SEO stuff to publish it. We help,
Yeah.
I get your point for sure. And then we know we're weeding out some people that are just not going to have the means to do 13K. But we just know in what we've seen in a year's time, it's like for every person we tell them no, that's like, hey, all I got is 5,000 to invest in this. It's like, and we want to try to work on ways to meet them. And one way we're doing that is we're filming a course, actually. I forgot to say that.
Really?
We're filming a course in Columbia in a few weeks. Essentially, the course is going to be from A to Z how to do this. And it's going to be $1,500. And then for $3,500 a year, it's coaching with both of us and the course. So
Yeah.
that's one thought that we've been so busy.
Yeah,
like-
sometimes we forget about the course.
yeah.
And it's like, we gotta film that in a few weeks.
Yeah, so that would be a cool, I think,
Yeah.
value added. It won't edit a book for someone, but in
But
our
that adds a ton of value.
Yeah.
Huge.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so yeah, thanks for-
everybody.
thanks
Right.
for keeping it
It's
going.
no, it's all coming back.
Yeah.
Because we've had that conversation, right, of like, how do we scale? This comes back to scaling of right now it's our process is we'll do it for you, but the coaching piece is like, we'll teach you how to do it. And so there's that element, but then we've also talked with the course at that $3,500 price point. Halfway through, someone's going, guys, I've seen enough. I want your team to help me do it. Then they can use what they pay for the course as a credit to that.
Yeah.
That's a great
Offer,
idea
yeah.
too.
So-
Excellent. You guys are so smart. You guys have.
Well, you're helping
My
us
mom
work
told
through
me that the other day.
Anything else?
I guess I'll just close with, what can we do as a community to help you guys be successful?
Well, I would just say, again, we'd love to talk to any of you if you're like, oh, my grandma needs to write a book. We'd love to talk with her. Yeah, I'm in Columbia. He's in Kansas City. So anyway, yeah, we're usually going back between those. Yeah, what were you going to ask?
Social media profiles, what are they? Are they on Instagram, TikTok? Where are you at?
Yeah, so for our business or for us personally?
Business.
So like I said, we just hired, everything's just Write My Books or Streamline Books, right?
Streamline books.
Yeah, Streamline Books. Yeah, Streamline
Yeah.
Books. Our website is writemybooks.com, but
Just Amazon.
just Amazon. us. Yeah,
Amazon.
look us up on Amazon and there's your answer. Yeah.
Can we make payments?
Can you make payments?
Yeah.
As far as like the book process? Yeah, we've definitely, so the way we've been getting paid that we've transitioned to is like 4 installments of 25% during that 16 weeks. So you're paying 4 times 25%. There's been times where certain authors we've been like, hey, we will, if they can show us like, hey, this is a payment plan I want to stick to, kind of like a down payment up front just to show their skin in the game. What we got to figure out is like, what we're still working through, actually meeting with an attorney soon of just figuring out like, okay, if someone starts the book process 5 weeks in, they're like, I can't, then just figuring out those logistics to make sure that our writing team, our project manager, we're still able to get them paid for their time, and so we're trying to work through all that. But yeah, dude, if you got an idea you want to talk to us, we'll entertain it for sure. But
Yeah, I think those two audiences of externally, whether it's you or someone who we got to get their story down, or internally, I know a writer friend or a great editor, we would love to talk with any of those. Would be awesome. So thank you, Sydney. This is so cool and exciting.
Yeah.
After a couple months, you said you guys have been off to be back.
It works, right?
Yeah, this is a great room.
Very good. Let's give them a hand.
thanks.